Welcome to another episode of A Come Together. Two, and we're live. Tony, let me see if I don't butcher your name. Vita Vitarosio. Vitorosio?
Hey, that's close enough.
I
Some people
butchered
just
it
give
though,
up.
right?
No, it's okay. People just give up all the time. Vittorioso.
Vitorioso. Where you
It,
from, man?
I'm from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised.
Love that place, man. Love that place.
Yeah.
Chicago proper, or
Yeah, I grew up on the west side of Chicago.
wow, awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you like growing up there?
It was good. My parents didn't really let me go out as much because we were on the west side of Chicago, even though it's really not bad of a bad area.
Hmm.
But because they're just protective and they just want the best for me, they kind of kept me secluded and put me in the martial arts program, and that's where I spent most of my times in Chicago. So
Great.
yeah,
So let's dive right in. Why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, and we'll go from there.
great. Well, my name is Tony Vittorioso. I'm a martial artist, stuntman, fight coordinator, and aspiring action director.
Nice.
My passion lies bringing people together to create work and something that we can all be proud of. And so for me, it's about the journey and not so much about the accolades that'll come as uh, as the work happens. So
Who taught you that perspective? That's a great perspective to have, and I feel like a lot of people don't have that.
I feel like I can't speak for everybody, but in the industry, people just want to say, "I did this and I did that," and they want to be the big shot. And I feel like that happens in most businesses, anyways. But in the industry, you get humbled really fast. And so if you just kind of stay humbled the whole way, no one's going to point the finger at you as, this guy's this,
Trouble.
this, and this. Yeah.
Right.
So
He's looking for attention. He's looking for trouble. He's
yes,
looking to throw other people under the bus for his own gain. I'm sure there's a lot of that, right?
all the time. But you try not to take it personal. You just kind of navigate your own way, and whatever comes your way, you navigate a certain way, and bada bing, bada boom, all is good at the end of the day.
That's it,
You know.
man. That's it. So you started with martial arts before you ever thought about doing stunts. What martial arts do you study, and when did you start?
I started when I was 4. Started off at Bob Zhang's martial arts. He taught Taekwondo, Hapkido, and I did that up until maybe 12 or 13 years old. And then when we moved to the suburb of Naperville, I found a school called Sharky's Karate, which has basically changed my whole life. So once I
In what
started
way?
there,
How so?
oh man, just the people there are so elite. The people there are elite, but the person who was guiding that whole school, Sensei John Sharkey, he's created average human beings to elites,
Wow.
and it's just the persona he has. It's his teaching. It's the way he loves you. It's the way he guides you. It's like you almost don't want to let him down. You know,
Yeah.
he puts so much. He pours so much into you. It's like you have no you have no choice but to go. If you mean to
Yeah.
go, go mean, and that's what he's instilled in us is go no matter what.
Yeah.
So
I teach English part time in the afternoons to high school students, and one of
okay,
the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years is that when I hold my students to a higher standard and I tell them that, like, I know you're smart, I know you're capable, I know you could do this,
yeah,
then that gives them less excuses for themselves to kind of opt out of responsibility, you know. And I
right,
think that a lot of times I think the biggest problem that we experience, especially as we're growing up, is like we almost don't want the standards to be high, so that because you don't want to let someone down. Like, on one hand, you don't want to let someone down, and on the other
yeah,
hand, it's also scary because it just means you're taking on extra responsibility, and the burden of being, of trying to be your best yourself requires a lot of effort and a lot of hard work, and
right.
you know, it's a lot to deal with. So I think that when you're kind of given permission to be great, that's when and you see that someone believes in you. That really brings out the best in people in general.
100%. You couldn't have said it any better than that.
So,
really.
what's the difference? What's the difference stylistically for anyone that doesn't know between karate and you started with taekwondo?
Yes, sir.
So, what's the difference stylistically between them, or philosophically, or whatever?
Taekwondo is more of a kicking art. Uh,
Kicking art.
Taekwondo has to deal. I like to think of Taekwondo as fencing with your feet. You know, there's you can also say that about Savate too, but Savate is a French kickboxing. It's more boxing with your feet, as I like to think of Taekwondo as fencing with your feet because you're going in and out in this linear pattern, but you can also move off axis and kind of take your angle. And karate is more grounded. I like to think of karate as nerd out a little bit as like earth bending, is you're so in tune with grounding yourself and generating power from the ground up into your fist, or whether it's a punch, a kick, a block. Our sensei always taught us a block is a punch is a block, and even the kick is a block. Is
Can you
you're
explain what
you're
that means?
yeah. So we have this thing called let's go shudo, right? It's just called a knife hand punch, right?
Okay.
So there's uki, then there's zuki, right? And uki means punch or like an attack, and the zuki is a block. So I could take a knife hand block and I could go linearly to the collarbone, but if I just go off axis just past my center line, I can take that block that punch and turn it into a block where if the person were to
Interesting.
attack my center line, I have
So it's
that
kind of
counter.
adaptable. It's kind of
Uh,
adaptable.
100%,
Cool.
100%.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
And what have you learned? What do you learn about life, especially when you're young, when it comes to martial arts?
discipline.
Discipline. That's probably the
Uh,
most important thing you can learn, right?
100%.
Like for
Uh,
anyone, it doesn't make a difference what you're doing. It doesn't make a difference if
oh,
you're an
uh,
accountant or a lawyer or a
oh,
stuntman or anything. Like you got to be
of
disciplined.
course, of course, because motivation comes and goes.
Yeah.
You know, you can watch inspirational video, you can look at your colleagues and be inspired, but discipline is what drives you to get to your end goal, right? So, there are times where you don't want to wake up and
Right.
you don't want to go train, but
Yeah.
you have to do it like you love it,
When did
or else why do it at all?
I mean, I'm sure that didn't happen right away. Do you remember when you like kind of shifted into that discipline mindset as a kid?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
I'd say just like anything, it forms into a habit, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand, it takes roughly 21, 24 days to create a habit. And I definitely did not do that without the support of my family, without the support of, my loved ones. And, at the end of the day, I'd be like, Mom, I don't want to go. She goes, you have to go, Mijo. Like, why are you not going? You
Yeah.
know, you know, and then my grandma would instill with me in life, you just have to do things you don't want to do, period. And so I think it really set in stone with me once I started competing in martial arts, because now it's investment of time. It's traveling. It's missing school. It involves money. It involves so many different varieties of life, right? So you almost don't want to waste it. So it really became a habit and a discipline and a motivation to just do the best that I can do. And even if I failed, I know that I put my whole heart into it, and the people who supported me were happy. And if they're happy, I'm happy, and vice versa. So I
So you
like
had
to say
healthy
it just.
relationships with potentially losing. Like you like if you lost at a tournament or a competition and you knew you really did your best. What was or I don't know what experience have you had with that kind of thing?
If I had to reflect on it now, losing back then, it didn't feel like a big deal. You know,
Okay.
I don't know. It's one of those things where if it felt like a big deal, but in the grand scheme of it, I was there to have fun. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I got
Yeah.
to hang out with my friends. I got to travel the world.
Yeah.
I,
Where'd
I
you
got
go?
to do
Where's
things.
some places you went?
Um, I went to Battle of Atlanta. We did Kentucky, which is Bluegrass
Mhm.
Nationals, which is what Sensei Sharkey ran for a while, and then he moved it to Chicago. Now it's called AKA Grand Nationals. Uh, Went to U.S. Open, which is this thing that's
Cool.
broadcasted on uh, ESPN.
Hmm.
So that was really cool to be involved with. Capital Classics. Diamond Nationals, which is in, I believe it was in Minnesota, I reckon.
Cool. So when you go to these places, are you checking out the cities? Are you going with your family? What's happening at this point? Are you going for the tournament, coming and going?
I was graced to just go with my sensei. You know,
Nice.
my parents just kind of let me go, and I was able to kind of, live
Yeah.
that teenage life, traveling and just being with their
Wow.
homies. So that was really cool. And
That's
Sensei took
awesome.
care of us. So he
Yeah.
was, as much as he was responsible for us, at the end of the day, he gave us the ground rules. Don't leave the facility unless you tell me. But for the most part, we were very respectful of his rules because that's our sensei. So there's that little gap area where you kind of you know
Yeah, of course. You're a
go
kid. You're a
let
kid, man. No, you're gonna do you gotta do.
so. But yeah,
What I feel like I feel like the sensei role is like so instrumental for so many people because it's almost like parently, right? It's almost like a paternal kind of figure, the sensei.
yeah,
That kind of I feel like if you don't have that kind of support at home, that the discipline and the life lessons that senseis teach you really step up for a lot of people. Have you noticed that in like in your experiences with other guys or guys or girls in your classes?
yeah, yeah. The sensei role is just our senior. You know, you don't want to. It's like how you treat your grandma or your grandpa, right? It's
Yeah,
how you. It's like respecting your elders. You know, at the end of the day, martial arts hasn't just taught us like a discipline of a physical art. It's a spiritual art, but it's also learning how to just treat people like how you would like to be treated, but because they're older than you, because they have more wisdom, you almost want to go above and beyond to show their
yeah,
respect. It goes beyond treating how you would treat your parents in a way. Like that's no disrespect to your parents or anything,
yes,
because
of
your
course.
parents, but it's just you want to treat them with the highest regard,
I
hundred
think part of
percent.
the value, I think part of the value of that is like a relationship that you're choosing to engage in as opposed to one that you have to,
Sure.
is always a little bit more meaningful to the person that you're choosing to engage, right? So like
Yeah.
the reason a parent loves a kid more than kid can understand is because the parent chose to have the kid and raise the kid. The kid didn't
Right.
choose to have the parent, like the kid
Right.
was born in that situation. But if you have a sensei, you choose the sensei and you're opting to stay in that relationship with him or her or whatever it is, and you're opting to maintain that relationship, and so you kind of appreciate it more than something that was kind of just there for you to just have.
Right.
I think. I mean, that's one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of like coaches and senseis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
'Cause it makes such a
Yeah.
huge difference for so many people. And like, I actually did a podcast with a woman that's head of criminology, undergraduate criminology, University of Miami. And one of the things that she was doing research with was how organized sports and having coaches and role models uh, dramatically decrease. Um, the likelihood for adolescent crime and youth crime, and just having like that figure where they kind of that role model figure at a young age really
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world when it comes to your decision making.
100%. And the sensei doesn't have to be a martial art. It could be a teacher. It could be a business advisor. Sensei, sifu. It's all the same thing. Is you're just looking at someone to the highest regard. I like to think of it as also like a mentor. You know,
Yeah.
if we had to put it that way. So yeah, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without the mentors and the senseis in my life.
And how
Hundred
often do you
percent.
train? How do you keep up training? How often do you train? What do you do? You see a giant jug of water
Every every day, every
every
day.
day.
Every day. Some days go harder than others. Some days are more physical, some days are more spiritual, some days are just absorbing what I can, you know, and that could
Right.
be from studying film to learning a new language. It's just as soon as you become stagnant in your life, I feel like you become diluted. And I think no one wants to feel like they're diluting, especially as we age. And I know age isn't a big thing, but we're here for a limited time, so why not go hard?
Totally,
In
dude.
every possible way. So yeah,
I feel like that's what discipline gives you. I feel like discipline gives you the opportunity to really make the most of your potential. And I think that because actually one of my biggest fears, like in my life in general, has just been like to die before feeling like I did, like feeling I wasted my wasted my potential. That was like I always think about that, and I feel a lot better about it the last couple of years since I've really worked on my discipline and like really worked on not being lazy and putting my effort into 100% into what I do.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that attitude, that healthy attitude, has like I think it's I think you need that discipline before you can become the best version of yourself that you can do and really do all that. What languages are you learning?
I'm currently learning Urdu, which is a Pakistani language, which is it's
The
just hard.
Pakistani language?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
hard, very
What's
very
hard
hard.
about it?
Uh, the pronunciation and just like any language, it's how you structure and the
Hmm.
pauses in between the words and
Yeah.
just like English, you can kind of just flow and things happen. It's the same in Urdu, except the way that they roll their R's and the way that they use their throat and their tongue,
Yeah.
just like really any language. But because I'm primarily Hispanic and uh, American, it's a very different language for me. So
Sure.
yeah.
But you speak Spanish
A little bit, yeah.
a little bit.
I'm a false Mexican. I'm half Puerto Rican and half Mexican. My grandma taught me as much as she could when I was younger, and then, you know, as I got older, that kind of all just kind of faltered, and other things started being a priority. But
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I speak. I did this.
yeah,
I grew up speaking Hebrew, and my Hebrew is not up to snuff as compared to what it used to be.
it's okay.
Not at
It
all, man.
happens.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I could. With the
happens.
more I engage, like if I practice, if I run into someone that speaks Hebrew and I practice for a couple of days, it kind of clicks back into place. But
Yeah.
it's not what it used to be. So tell me a little bit about the stunt world. So tell me, for anyone that doesn't know, right, that'll be listening, what's a stuntman or a stunt? What do stunt people do?
Some people do.
Yeah,
Um,
just overall, if someone never knew that this position existed in Hollywood and or entertainment, how would you describe it to them?
we are the people who put our bodies on the line for entertainment. And sometimes it can be the simplicity of coming into lens and taking a punch and leaving frame, or taking a car hit and then having to do that as many times as they say action.
Wow.
uh, so I think it's one of the best jobs to to me. There's that rush that you get. It's going to sound kind of crazy of putting your life on the line for the sake of proving something to yourself. Like, when it becomes, are you set, ready, 3 2 1 action? For me, like, everything kind of the hyper focus kicks
Yeah,
in, and
yeah.
all I hear is action. And then, to be honest, I don't even know what I'm doing. My body jumps, and I know my body moves,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like that's the form of myself that I don't have to think about. You train so hard to do all of these skills, right? And then when it's time to do the skill, your body goes autopilot, and then your brain is allowed to dissect each movement as it's happening by like a millisecond,
Yeah,
which is something that I always try to understand as I get older. Because I'm young. I'm 31. I still have a lot in the tank, but
sure.
I made a promise to myself by the age of like 36, 37. I'm going to try to lean away from putting my life at risk, because I'd like to be more than just a stuntman.
Yeah,
I'd love to direct films. I just want to tell stories. Action will never leave my
yeah,
my. I'm a connoisseur of violence, and I want to take this violence that I have, and I use violence like loosely.
sure.
There's action comedy, there's drama, there's even in romance, there's that sense of violence, right? So I just want to tell as many stories as I can. I want to represent an idea, and I feel like every stuntman has this mentality of just telling a story, whether that's with their bodies, on screen, whether that's writing or directing action. You know, I feel like every stuntman just wants to tell a story, but they also want to stay behind the curtains because we don't like attention. You know,
Right.
that's the thing. Is for me, I have a select few friends who just they don't want to talk to the actors. They don't really care. You know,
Really? So
no,
they just
yeah,
so they just come onto set. They just come onto set, take a hit, and then take a take,
and
do a
and
hit,
they
and then walk off.
and they bounce. Yeah,
Don't talk to anyone else. They have nothing else to do with the movie, or not really. Whatever. Yeah.
I mean, more or less, it's
So is there a
very.
is there a stunt community? Like, is there
Oh
like?
yes,
Oh yeah.
yes,
Can you tell me
and
about it?
I'm still learning the community. The as much as the community is so small, it's also very vast. Everybody kind of knows everybody. Like for me, my seniors, created a thread, right? And that thread was basically like why they got into what they were doing. When they were studying the Jackie Chan films and the Bruce Lee films and the Sammo films and the Shaw brothers and the Wu Pings, like when they were studying those films, they would replicate, their own ideas of that and what
Right.
that meant to them, and then they would share it with each other. But it would be like criticism, but like that healthy criticism, right?
Sure.
You'd be like, hey, like, have you thought about maybe slowing down the frame rate, or have you thought about putting more intent behind the punch? It'd be like these little things that would make the biggest difference. And
Hmm.
now in our community, you kind of see that, but it feels more competitive. It's more like everybody wants to get the job, because you know my mentor told me this. His name is Emmanuel Manzanares, and I'll never forget it. Is there's always going to be someone younger than you, stronger than you, better than you, and more talented than you,
Yeah.
right? And it's up to you to decide whether you want to push them to the side or you want to help them grow, right? And so I feel like that's an ever going thing in life. So in the community, you want to basically hone in on the idea of being genuine with your peers and your colleagues and people who are coming up. You want to teach them as much as you can, but don't spoon feed them.
Yeah.
you know and I feel like a lot of the work back in the day with the pioneers like Emmanuel Manzanares and Vlad Rimberg and Eric Jacobus, the list goes on, is you just want to make sure that you hone in on the idea of what they've done to make it for themselves, and then re-innovate it to a degree, because in my eyes everything's been done, from camera work to a punch to a kick to a block to a throw. But what hasn't really been tuned in all the way is the emotion that you get behind the camera,
Yeah.
or that shows in front of the camera.
There's nuance.
Is
The body language is so nuanced.
Yes, sir. 100%. I love that you said there's a nuance, because there is. Every emotion plays a part. Like I could throw a punch sad, I could throw the punch angry, I could throw the punch with the straight intent to take your head off or to just damage you. There's so many variables of doing things, but it all stems from the intent and the emotion behind it, and it's what the story needs to convey. And so a
It's
lot
so
of
interesting. When you say you want to direct, you want to tell stories. It's because you can find a physical way. I mean, obviously, there's more than but there's a physical way to tell every story, and there's a physical way in each moment to like
Mm,
represent what's going on in someone's head, in their body, and in their movement.
100%, sir. Yeah,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
It's so cool.
yeah.
It's so cool. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'd like to say there's always something that you're going to learn, whether you're the best. You're always going to find some small detail that you haven't seen before, that you might look at it differently, even
Sure.
as you age.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. But it doesn't. I mean, you mentioned that the stunt community is getting a little bit more competitive. That everyone wants the jobs. I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like there's a lot more content being produced today than ever. Right? You got, because on top of the big studios, you also have the streaming studios, and you have Netflix, and you have Amazon, and you have Apple TV, and you have all these studios that are constantly making content aside from the big, the main studios that everyone's known.
Right.
Is there not more jobs available at this point? Or is that the market became more flooded with stunt people?
Uh, no, I just think, you can look at it from a from multiple perspectives.
Okay,
When I first started, like I started off in Atlanta, like I, I started off in Chicago, and then my mentor said, "Hey, go to Atlanta, go make a name for yourself, and then go to LA." And in Atlanta, it was very easy to work, right? You can
okay.
kind of
So I'm sorry.
just.
Wait. So how old are you when you started, and what got you started in it?
I started off when I was 19. I
Okay,
was working at a retail store. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that I wanted to do something physical, so I jumped into a community college. I got my associates in personal training.
cool.
And one night after work, my best friend Nate Hidpass sent me a text message and a YouTube video. from Treasure Planet, where it's the scene on the boat where he says, "You have the making of greatness in you." And he was already doing stunts at the time with Emmanuel, and he said, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this. It's not going to be an easy road, but I'd love to do it with you, right?" And
So cool.
that was what pushed me. And then at that point, I met Manny, and
So you
then
go for auditions. What do you do? Or do you
uh,
learn skills first? Do you I'm sure you like, getting hit by a car isn't something that you just do, and like no matter how physically capable you are, right? I'm sure you have to learn this stuff, right?
yeah, it's something that you practice. Like you're not going to practice getting hit by a car, right? But you learn how to move your body in a certain way where you can absorb the impact and then roll off of it. And then once you hit the ground, you either, if depending how the car is going, you can either just take it for what it is, or you could kind of create this also dirtiness to it
Hmm.
as soon as you impact. So at the end of the day, what you train is learning how to move your body. That's gymnastics, that's martial arts. That's what kind of got me into this whole knowing my body.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, I just recently did a car stunt where I had to jump onto a moving vehicle, and then push come to shove, I get spilled off the moving vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And the vehicle's going at most like 15, 16, and you could let the vehicle dictate your movement, or you could ride the vehicle's momentum and then make it your own. And I
Hmm.
feel like most people would just say, "Oh, I'm just going to let my body go." Well, that's when the injuries happen, right?
Okay.
Is you just kind of let things happen.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in control and you be cognizant of the whole motion of it all, you start to variate uh, the types of wrecks that you can achieve on film.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then if there, so what's the feeling like when you get hit by, you get hit by this car, or you're on this car and you fall off, and they're like, "Cut, we screwed up, we need another take." Are you like, "Let's do it again exactly the same way"? Are you like, "That sucks"? What's your or do you request other takes sometimes, or how does that work?
that kind of depends on the film that you're on, right? If you're working with you know if how can I say it, if it's a first unit job, I usually tend to keep my mouth shut. Like a first unit job is like, let's say that you're working for, let's say, Zack Snyder, right?
Yeah.
He's very intimate with his stunt team. He's very he wants the best for his stunt team, because if it's the best for his stunt team, it's also going to make the best for his film.
Yeah.
And so, I have a mentor by the name of Damon Carl, and him and Zach work so tightly together that if Damon says, "Hey, we got to go again," Zach's like, "Yep, no problem."
Right.
Let's get the cameras rolling. So there's that trust factor that I trust my boss. If he sees something, he's going to speak up. If he doesn't say nothing, and let's say I did something wrong, but he signs off on it, I know I'm in my head.
Right.
I think there's just that trust that you have. But now, let's say that we're working on a second unit, and usually the second unit director
What's
is a
second
stuntman.
unit mean?
Second unit is just a separate unit from main unit. So, mostly main unit will do all of the acting bits that lead into the action, right? And then the
Okay.
second unit director will be quote unquote like the action director,
Okay. Gotcha.
more
Yeah.
or less. And if I see something, or if I feel like I do something, I feel a little bit more confident to say, "Hey, you know what? I don't know if you saw that, but I did this, this, and this. Do you mind if we go again?" But also at the same time, you have to be cognizant of each take is thousands and thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? So you don't want to feel like you're the problem. You
Yeah.
just want to make sure that, they're hiring you. It's not stunt school, it's stunt work.
Right.
So you just want to make sure that you're on your game. So, it depends. To answer your question shortly, it depends on who you're working for.
I
Yeah.
see. Do you think that is your philosophy about that? Um, is that universal throughout the stunt world, or are there different stunt people that are a little bit more, you call them like divas or whatever, like, "Oh no, I don't like that take, I want to do it
Mm,
again," or they don't have a problem, like they don't look at it like stunt work, they look at it like, "Listen, this is my art, and I want my art to look as, to be as artistic as possible, and so I don't mind spending another couple grand on a take if it's going to be this piece of art." Are there a
I,
lot of people like that?
I feel like that's a conversation amongst the stunt team. I don't think it takes one person to say, I need to go again because my foot was in the wrong place, or I didn't do this specific reaction. You know, that to me is going the extreme route. I'm sure that has happened, but you know, for the most part, we are all very humble and we really trust our bosses to put us in the right position, in the right place. So that's a difficult question to ask because I've always been involved with a good team,
Yeah,
and so I've never really had a thing on set where it's like da, 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 blah, blah, where
yeah,
things
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of happen in the spur of the moment. But not to say that it hasn't happened. You know,
Yeah,
there's tons of
I'm sure
stories
there
out
has.
there.
Yeah, no, that's why I was curious. Because you seem to be coming at this from a very mature perspective and a very conscientious of other people and time and money and how big of a effort making a film or making a putting something together is. I was just curious whether that's like a general mentality among stunt people or whether that you're just the exception you think to the rule. I think I lost you, dude. Oh wait, I got you.
Good.
I got you again. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for the most part, we like to think of ourselves behind the curtain. If
Yeah,
it needs to go again, you know,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
here to do it
definitely.
again. You know
So
what I
um,
mean?
so what movies and films have you done? What have you? Here's two questions. Okay, what's some of the biggest movies that I would have heard of, and what are the ones that you've enjoyed the most? Which I don't. I'm sure there's not necessarily a correlation between the size as opposed to the how you feel about the quality of the stunt work.
Oh, that's a great question, brother. Every experience holds different value for me. You
What
know,
movies have you done that I would have heard of?
Rebel Moon.
Okay, that's
That
Zack
was his
Snyder.
neck. Yeah, we did part one, part two under Damon Cara and Freddie Busiegas. Army of
What
the
was that
Dead.
like? Because that's a big production, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a good 7 months for us. We did.
How'd
I
you get that
think
gig?
we
Can you walk me through it?
100%. I had worked for a gentleman by the name again, Damon Caro, on a film called Army of the Dead, and introduced by I got introduced to Damon by another colleague by the name of Wayne Doglish, who was also under Damon Caro's wing.
Okay.
And my buddy Micah Carnes, one of my best friends, even still today, we've been coming up together since we were 13 years old up at Sharky's Karate. That's where I met him. And so, he says when I first moved to LA in 2018, Mike was like, "Yo, I got a job that I'm doing with Wayne Doglish. I'd love to have you be a part of it. I think you'd like him a lot, and you guys would mesh." And when we did that job together, I met Wayne. I did a good job. I loved Wayne's vibe. I loved his action design. And then from there, fast forward the next year, Wayne's like, "Hey, I'd love to have you on this film I'm doing." And I had knew Damon Carl's name before, so when you said it was for Damon, I fanboyed. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Damon did 300. So when you watch 300, you're like
Yeah.
Spartans, like badass warriors. Like, come on, man. And he did Sucker Punch as well. He did Man of Steel. He did
Wow.
Wonder Woman. So you're seeing all these action design accolades, and you're looking at when you watch it for just design. Me and Micah and a lot of my other colleagues just gravitated towards that style, right? And so yeah, I met Damon on Army of the Dead, and from then on we just had like a working relationship, and he's taught me a lot in like early come ups as well. And again, I wouldn't be doing a
So
lot
you
of
go out
this.
to you go to Rebel. So you're in LA. You're living in LA at this point,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
and you go to the Netflix studio. And
Yeah.
what's the set like? What's it? Is it how big is it? What's it? Can you describe it at all?
Yeah. It's a big set. It's a big set, right? But you know what's really cool about Zack Snyder's sets? It's so family oriented. He's been working with the same team since Dawn of the Dead, right? And
Yeah.
so it's just like, it's like everyone knows everybody. And like I think when you have that that bond, things just start moving. And I
Yeah.
and I also feel like you're able not argue, but you're able to have these creative, not it's not even banters, but like those
Back and forths. Yeah.
yeah,
Conversation. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
And I think that is what's cool about his sets. Yes, his sets are big. right? Yes, his sets move
Couple hundred
fast, but
million
they're
dollars. It's crazy.
oh, it's absurd. It's absurd how much money goes into each take, how much money goes into props and costumes, and just even for the stunt department, right? Like the stunt department is holds millions of dollars, you know. And as for a stunt coordinator's job, like how do you take this money that they're giving you? How do you preserve it? How do you extend it? How do you push it? How do you ask for more? How do you how do you
Yeah, yeah,
dictate where this goes?
yeah.
And so it's
It's almost
his.
politics.
Well,
Right? You got to figure out
eh,
who to say what to and how to say it and where to go and who to go to, and they'll go over whose head and, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? I feel like it's all complicated.
there's politics everywhere. It's which is a whole other conversation in stunts. But yeah, like his sets are probably one of the best sets I've ever been in still, like to this day.
So what's
And
so you get there and how long are you there for?
well, we had prep for roughly 3 months. We started in January.
And
Um,
you're not moving in there because you live there. But what if it's a set that's off location, right? Like out of LA. Let's say you're going to I don't know, let's say Atlanta, right?
yeah,
For to a set, and you're train you get your stuff and you move there for 3 months.
yeah, yeah. We for Army of the Dead, we they flew us out to Albuquerque, and then they flew us to New Jersey, and so
Wow.
they put us up in a hotel. You know,
Yeah. What was
it's
that like?
some it's cool. I mean, I don't mind it. You're just a minimalist at that point. You're living out of your suitcase. Your main job is just to go to work. Do your job, come home, and then live a decently normal life at that point.
Yeah.
But
Is it hard
I
to?
like for me, it's not. I know some people they need to travel back and forth home, which I understand. Uh, that makes a lot of sense. It's just you're almost married to the game at that point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's it is what it is, or else why are you doing what you're doing?
So you're showing up
You
to
know?
work, and are you starting? So let's say, so again with Rebel Moon, right? So you're going for first couple of 3 months, and do they have? They already have a script. They already know what the movie's going to be. They already know
Yeah.
what you're going to be. Do they assign you to a main actor? Do they assign you to be a villain? Like how and then they have coordinated stunts already, or what? How does that work?
So my role on the team was utility slash fight team, and so at that point I was given a actress to train throughout the film,
Cool.
and so I would talk to my boss. Hey, what do you want? What do you want her to learn? So,
Yeah.
what are some
Cool.
things that she needs, or what's the fight scene like? And he would say, hey, it's going to be like this and this, so work on this. Then it would be my job to develop a plan, go through it with him, and then off I go. And utility stunts, like you're coming up with choreo, you're teaching the actors, you're assessing them, and you're also just being a body. Hey, I need you to take this headshot in the corner. All right, got it. Boom. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now from there, I need you to go to wardrobe and see if this fits the actress. Okay, got it. Like you're just a moving part.
Wow.
And to be honest, they could do the job without you. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're expendable. So I try not to take it as if, oh, I'm such a key player. Really, there are tons of dudes like who can do what you do, right? But I think what makes it worth the while is the connectivity that you have with your stunt team. If there's one bad egg in the batch, you know, the stunt team can kind of go
Yeah, it throws
and get all
everything off.
funky. So
Yeah.
you try to be on your best behavior, and you just try to have mutual understandings like with your colleagues and teammates. But that is probably the best part about starting from the start of the film to the end, because you go through this war, right? From the beginning to the end, and when you're done, you're like, okay, cool, now what? Like now what do we do?
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So yeah.
So and then when you look at the final cut, right? Are you how familiar is it to what you feel like you went through as opposed to how it comes out on screen? Like when you like for example again, like let's say you get thrown off a car, right? Or you jump off a roof. And you're jumping off and do you see the takes when they happen or no? Like do you get to see them? You just
Sometimes,
do it?
yeah, yeah. Like sometimes we'll see it. Like if it's a feature spot, I'm not. If it's a feature spot, sometimes I'll kind of like like peek your head just to see what's up with it. Or my boss will say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this because you're a little off frame, or I noticed that they're doing this with the camera, like they're just changing things. There's a lot of moving parts. For me, I like to just wait to be told kind of what to do because my boss is kind of the dictator of how he orchestrates,
Yeah,
the
sure.
action
He's a
scenes.
conductor,
So
right? Yeah.
it's just I just really hone in on that.
Yeah,
Um,
and then but then when you watch it at the end, you're like, "Whoa, that's crazy! I didn't realize I look like that." Is that what happened? Like, what's your train
yeah,
of thought?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's really cool.
It's cool. It's cool because there's like the director's cut, and then there's like the production cut.
Yeah,
It's got to fit their time frame, and so you know some things you do. It happened many times before. I've done some gags and some stunts that haven't made the film. You're like, okay, well that was fun, for what it was on the day. Like I got to
yeah,
ride a wire and take a bump. Like that was fun. I still did it with a smile, even though my back got cracked. But nevertheless, that's what we do. But it's like just seeing the work on the screen is cool enough,
I
you
can
know.
imagine, dude. I did. I went to just the other day. I was at jujitsu. I just started. I started about a month and change ago, right?
Yeah,
And and I'm rolling with this dude that's been, doing this for probably 7 or 8 years, and he's really been showing me. He's kind of a little bit more similar to my weight and my build, and so he's kind of been like, teaching me a lot. And so
yeah,
he and I are rolling, and at some point, I go for. I'm not a particularly flexible, active, physical person. That's why I started jiu-jitsu, because I wanted to really confront my physical concerns and fears,
yeah,
and how timid I am physically. And
yeah.
like so we're rolling at some point, I didn't even know I happened, just like a blink. I just did like we just did like a I did like a he kind of backflipped me, like tumble sauced me, right? And I was like, and I felt the motion happening, and it was over before I even thought to like even think about it. Like it just like kind of just happened, and it was like a roll. Like he kind of just like flipped me, like I felt like my whole, like 1 minute I'm like this, and the next minute like my whole body is just the other way. And I
Dude.
was like, and I was like, I would have loved to see what that looked like, like I would have loved to see like, what that was. So I can imagine how cool it is at the end of the day to like, see the magic of the film come to life at the end of it.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
that's cool that you got flipped. Dude,
Yeah, it
nice.
was. I got my first submission. I was very excited about that too, and then I got yelled at for celebrating because I was
Congrats.
told not to do that. But but the other thing that I was going to actually ask you about, and a problem that I had because I was starting, so I guess it's cool to kind of have an appreciation but still be a beginner, so I could kind of understand what like the actors and actresses would be going through as they're getting trained by someone like yourself. Um, one of the second class I did, the trainer there, or whatever it was, really kicked my ass, and he really made me work hard. And part of the things that he taught me how to do was to take a fall, and so to like, on the pad, but to throw back and to kind of like how to land backwards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I did it a bunch of times because he made us go back and forth across the mat. And at the time, I was like, "This is awesome," and then I legitimately could not move for like 4 days after. Like, like that
Yeah.
afternoon, I got home. I kind of felt, and I'm sure that you've experienced this, almost like while I was driving home, like almost like a physical trauma. Like my body was kind of shaking a little bit from taking it, taking those
Yeah.
hits. And then I got home, and like my whole body just like ached. Does that does that hold up production? Do you take that into to account? Do actors and actresses complain about that when you're teaching them? Like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. What do I do? How do I get over this? What do you do about that?
100%. And congratulations on that pain, because that's good. Because you're
The
now,
pain.
now your body's familiar,
It is,
with
by the
that.
way, because now I'm not as sore as I used to be, for sure.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that right there is, once the body starts to familiarize itself with this, pain or this physical trauma, the body's very adaptable. Whether you talk to it or not, it's going to adapt to whatever, stresses that it puts itself under. So even on a set, like adrenaline dumps are real, man. Like you get pulled onto set, you go from 4 hours of doing nothing or 8 hours of doing nothing to
Yeah,
you're the last hour of the day, and like everything you've waited for just goes go 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 go, and then when you're
yeah.
done, you're like, I just feel like I just went through a marathon. And your body just depletes and the soreness kicks in, but then you got to get up again and do it tomorrow.
So how do you
It's
recover? So what do you do to recover?
there's stretching, there's the ice baths, there's you can do the ibuprofens, and it's just. for me, I need to be a little bit more better on this. Is just turning off the brain. You know, just taking away all technology, taking away, you know, music, just taking away things and just kind of honing on like meditation, just calming the nervous system down. Because in stunts, you're always go 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 go, and then it stops, and then go 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 go, and it stops. But if you just hone in on just relaxing the whole nervous system and turning off everything, I feel like that for me has been very helpful in just being able to get up and do it again the next day for months, months, months at a time. So
When did you start meditating? And how'd
I
you
started
learn it?
still learning process because it's a ongoing cycle. But I think for me it was Army of the Dead. It was my first really big movie run. I was
How
I
long
was
did it
there
take
for
you to get Army of the Dead?
how long did it take me to get there?
As in, like, how old were you when you did it, from as opposed to when you
Oh
started? Like, was that considered your big break? Was that like, oh, you throw this on your resume, and you're like, now I can get a movie? And how long did it take you to get that film?
yeah, 2019 is when I got onto Army of the Dead. It was in March. Yeah, it was in
6 years
March.
ago.
Yeah, so I was in the business, or I started at 2013. Um, and then 2019 I got my big break. And
What
from
did you
then
do for
on
six
forward,
years before that big break?
I was in Atlanta, so I was doing a lot of, TV shows. We call it day playing. So day playing is like you come in, you do a quick little job, and you go home, right?
Yeah,
Some
it's
days
credit and
you're
it's experience.
that's it. Bada bing, bada boom. You do your job and you go home. I was very grateful to land a doubling role for The Walking Dead. I doubled a character by the name of Jesus, and
Cool.
so I was there for like 3 or 4 seasons at
Where'd they
most.
shoot?
They shot in Savannah, Georgia, I reckon,
Okay.
something like that. To be honest, it's been a bit. So
Wow, was that fun?
I
What was that? When you're a double, that means that you're the double for a main actor on screen.
yeah, yeah, or
And
like a reoccurring actor. Yes, sir.
gotcha. And then they presumably have enough action scenes involved in that in their acting that they need you to step in for that.
Yes, sir.
What do you think of actors that do their own stunts?
I think that's awesome. For again, for us, we're just behind the scenes, man. Like people hate hearing this, but it's like I think we're cheerleaders for them. Like we're there to test it for them, we're there to teach them it, and we're there to pump them up to get it done. You
Mhm.
know, like that's our main job is being a double. And so, when he would ask me, "Hey, how do I do this?" I'd be, the camera's going to be here, and you're going to do this. And then there are times where, you know, they don't want your help,
Yeah,
and that's okay.
yeah,
That's just it's figuring out what they like and going off of that a
right.
lot of the times.
So will an actor decide on set while it's happening, hey, I'm going to try this stunt myself, or typically speaking, they already knew in advance, hey, like I'm sure not everyone's a Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is the most famous example. Who else does their own stunts? And do you know any other actors off the top of your head that do their own stunts? And and also, do you think people are inclined to just try it in the moment? Like, oh, hey, let me just try jumping this. Hey, let me try doing this jump.
Sure. I mean, I think every actor, actress wants to do their own stuff because, at the end of the day, they're also trying to get booked on their next job, right?
Yeah,
So if the agent's saying, if the actor's like, "Hey, I want to do this fight scene," right? The stunt coordinator will talk to the actor, the director will get involved, and at the end of the day, it just becomes, is this a safety issue or not? Right?
right,
If it's not so much of a detrimental safety issue, then hey, go go do it. Because again, the actor or actress will put their character into that punch as
right.
much as we'll do it, right? They'll do it more, they'll have it with more justice, with
So,
more intent.
does that mean that let's say in Walking Dead scenario, right, for
Yeah,
you, that you're following the script and the character in his emotional state, and then when you're doing the stunts, you're trying to replicate what the actor has been doing until that point, and
correct.
like,
How they, Mhm. Yes, sir.
cool. Wow, that's awesome. So you really are acting yourself. Do you want to break into acting, or you don't want to be in front of the camera like that?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like in the indie world, we have to act because it is our face when we shoot our own shorts. So like I don't mind acting, you know. I just think as I even again as I'm getting older, I love to action direct and just direct in general, and you have to break into emotion, right?
Hmm.
So you're almost forced to act, or else you're going to be a director who can't act or can't, you know, explain us something about, hey, this is the emotional content I want, you know,
Yeah.
for this specific scene and X, Y, and Z. But you know, when I first started off, I wasn't really into acting. I was actually more embarrassed or just like, "Ooh, I'm a little shy. Like I don't know how to
Hmm.
express myself unless it's like I'm gonna fight something."
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I'd like to act more, but that's not what I'm chasing right
I
now.
see.
If it comes my way, heck yeah, put me in front of a camera and let me just do my thing,
How
right?
sim how what kind of skill set carries over from stunts to directing, and what do you think you'll need to learn in order to be a director? You know, because I feel like, you know, and I think that a lot of what you're saying, like for example, you know, one of the favorite things I know, some of my favorite things in movies are like the unsaid things that are just spoken with body language, and like, you know, and like you could have moments. I'm sure you watched The Sopranos. You watch Sopranos?
My parents were super into The Sopranos. I know it was a classic drama, you know.
Okay, so there's a
So
scene in the show at one point where the main mafia guy's therapist is raped, and she's trying to figure out whether or not she should tell him because she knows that the mobster could kill the rapist in a minute, right? All she has to do is just say what happened and give the guy's name and end of it, right? And but she has this moral conflict within her as to whether or not to go ahead with this, and they shot that scene so beautifully because it
oh,
was almost no words the whole time. Like it was just body language speaking. It was just like him prompting her, you know, raising an eyebrow. What do you want to tell me? You know, like kind of like lifting up his chin a little bit. And like you see that like she's almost like reserved and thinking and like she's using her entire body, and she just breathes inner conflict, you know, like that's just something that you just like sense coming out of her, and she ends up not saying, you know, not doing it, not saying anything to him. So I'm sure that like that what you're communicating, you know, that body communication, that body language is something that you would probably be able to carry over pretty well in terms of skills from stunts to directing. What do you think that you would have to like kind of pick up? What kind of skill sets do you think you'd have to learn?
wow. I say being intuitive, you know, learning to feel out the moment, you know, because you know, we're getting actors and actresses together to convey something, right? And they're gonna know their character better, you know, better. You know, they're obviously going to study that character and they're going to get into the mindset of that character. So I'd say it's being intuitive. It's having that relationship to communicate openly
Yeah.
on what's necessary and what's not necessary, and really trusting your environment. I feel like I
You feel like
feel
you'd be one of those collaborative directors. You'd be one of those like almost like create that family environment like Zack Snyder did.
100%,
Yeah.
a hundred
Yeah.
percent. You know, for me, I just, as much as I want to represent an idea, the biggest satisfaction about finishing a movie is just seeing everyone else's faces of accomplishment.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's more satisfaction than, you know, getting to do this really hard stunt. You know, as much as that's really fun and and you get to say, ah, like I did that. It's like
Yeah.
you got to be a part of a family, you
Yeah.
know, and then you get to move on to a different family, you
Such
know.
a
So
it's such a cool place to be coming from. It really is. I think that it's I think the director of the John Wick series was originally a stunt man, right?
yes,
Um,
sir. Chet Stahelski.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I heard him on Rogan before, and I heard him talking about it. And he made that you know he made that he's like, you know, being a stuntman made the transition so easy because you kind of you know you're in the nitty gritties, you're in the, you know, you're in the dirt, you're in the roots, and like you kind of know like really, you know, what makes the magic on screen based on that kind of stuff.
oh yeah.
Have you worked with a green screen before, or modern what extent of modern technology have you worked with?
We've done some green screen work before. Um,
What's that like?
uh, I did Man from Toronto was a film.
Oh, with Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that one. That one made me laugh. Yeah.
It was fun. We
What'd
we
you
we
do in
start
it?
off we at the end of the film there's this aircraft sequence, right? And so my boss Philip Silvera, who's right now doing the new Daredevil series,
Cool.
uh, he put me in a blue suit, and I had to stand behind a box and move it as if the cargo, was moving like out of the air, right? So, and then they paint us out like in post, but at that point we're just puppeteers for the set, right?
Yeah.
If this needs to move this way, we'll jerk it in a way, and that
Oh,
that
so
was
you're
the
literally moving things around and they're knocking you out of the picture.
yes, sir. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Crazy. So when things are flying, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking of, do you watch Uncharted?
Ah,
Uncharted?
nice. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, right? That initial plane
Yes, sir.
sequence where Tom Holland is like flying, falling out of the plane, and then he's trying, and he's hanging onto that whole strand. How would that work? Can you explain that to me, or what would that be like?
Yeah, like you have your actor, go through the motions of what the scene entails, and our coordinator will go, we need this cargo to chip off of this piece of pillar, right? And then
Yeah,
it's gonna fall past them, and then when it falls past them, just let it go because we're clear of the actor at that point.
yeah.
So you're having to dance with your actor, so you're almost performing with your actor, which is actually
So
really cool.
cool.
And so you kind of say, like, like, hey man, like I'm gonna do this, like it's not gonna get close to you. You kind of create this relationship, but it's an instant, right?
Yeah,
It's so instantaneously, then like, yeah, yeah, got it.
yeah.
And so it's cool, man. Like you just get to meet people on just a dime, man. You're just like, that was a cool like interaction. And then it turns out cool, and you're like, all right, cool, man. Like it was good working with you. And then you go home, like, oh, I got to meet this guy. But it's at the end of the day, we're just trying to get the job done and do it in a way that we can just kind of go home and laugh about it. So
Yeah, you're being
yeah,
modest about it, dude. I appreciate that, though. I think it's great. So green screen's good for heavier editing, and you're not necessarily even in the scene, but you're doing the behind the scenes work and actually getting
yeah,
that relationship with the actor, actress, presumably,
yeah,
or hopefully, right? And then
yeah.
and then, do they ever like remember particular stunt people? Like, hey, I enjoyed working with them. I want to do that again, or does that happen?
Yeah, yeah, that's happened a couple times. Um, I'm trying to think of a time it's happened to me, but I'm so
Yeah,
kind of checked out by a certain point.
yeah,
I know that certain actors request certain coordinators to come in and run their movie. I know
right,
that happens all the time.
sure,
I know some actors want specific doubles for them because they have that communication.
yeah.
So
Like
yeah,
that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
you named it,
Freaking
brother.
love that movie, dude. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Did you see them
Really?
making yeah, it is. Did you see them making a Netflix a second movie? It's being written by Tarantino. I forgot who's directing it. But it's going to be about it's featuring Brad Pitt and his adventures as a stuntman around LA. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, dude, it's really exciting. It's really, really cool. Um, I think that Tarantino was planning on having it be his last movie, and I think he changed his mind and agreed just to write it, and he wanted to direct his own thing. But
Cool.
I'm really hyped about that, dude. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the insight. I'm gonna have to look that up and see if I can get
How
on.
accurate are movies like that Ryan Gosling movie, The Fallen? Do you watch
Oh,
that?
yeah,
How
yeah.
accurate is that to like Stuntman's life? Obviously, it's a joke. It's like it's a whatever, but like
It was directed by a stuntman. Yeah,
it was.
yeah. Dave Leach.
Maybe
Yeah,
is a stuntman?
yeah. Stuntman turned director,
Oh,
martial
great
artist.
director.
Oh, fantastic martial arts stuntman director. You have David Leach. I see this as the holy grail, right? You have like David Leach, Chad Stahelski, and Damon Caro. Like those three are just, in my opinion, during that time they were just, even still they're at the top of their game, and they're all directors now. And so again, just like Chad said, it's like they've all been in the nitty gritty, so they know what it feels like to run a set. They know what it feels like to get things moving. And when you watch Fall Guys, like there's these like little like inside jokes that only a stuntman would understand.
Yeah,
So for us, it felt pretty personalized to us.
that's
And
so cool.
to the general public, it's my like, I don't get it, right? But
Yeah.
for us, we're like, ah, dude, yeah, like that fucking sucks when that
It's an
happens. But
inside joke, dude.
I
It's an
get it.
inside
Yeah.
joke for the industry, dude. It's so cool. It's so cool that they do that.
Yeah.
It's a
And
lot of fun.
one of the main doubles, Ben Jenkins, dude, he was Ryan Gosling's double. If you look at the stunts, you know, they're all pretty heavy hitting stunts, man. Like that's a stunt man's movie for sure. You know, a lot of groundbreaking things were done there, right? You have the car flip, you have the helicopter jump that was done by a gentleman, Troy Brown. You know, it's just like you have some all around amazing stunt guys on that film, and it's just a masterpiece. I think it's a masterpiece because you're taking what we do for a living, and some people say that it's a joke, and but I see it as a masterpiece because
I don't know how you
you're
could. I mean, wait, when you say take it as a joke, you're talking about stunts or you're talking about the movie itself?
stunts, you know, because
Yeah, I don't know. People could. I don't know. People could. It's so physically, like it's so physically impressive. You know, what are some of the crazier what are some of the crazier stunts that you've done throughout your career?
ooh um
Or some of the most entertaining or fun ones that you were like, whoa, and you just did it.
I got to for a movie called Nope by Jordan Peele.
Yeah,
I got
sure.
to
That's the horror
I got
movie.
Yeah, I got to hang from a helicopter by my leg upside down. And so it was in Santa Clarita. They tied me up, you know, by the helicopter. I'm rigged up. I have a harness on. I do all this thing, and you know there was
How
heavy
safe do you
winds.
feel?
Oh, I 100%. You know,
100% safe. Absolutely no concerns. You're like, this is just cool.
as soon as you leave room for concern, things can go wrong. So, you know, you just I've never worked for this coordinator before, and
Yeah,
so, you know, I'm not gonna disrespect him by saying he doesn't know what he's doing.
of
So I
course.
feel like when you're hired by certain guys, of course you do your research, you know, and you figure out like what they've done. But I feel like you have to wholeheartedly trust your boss.
Right.
Um, I don't want to psych myself out by saying, you know, is this tied right? Granted, you check the work. You know, like when they rig you up, you say, "Hey, like, is this where it's supposed to be?" And they say, "Oh, yeah." It's there's no harm in saying that because you know accidents happen.
Yeah.
But when you get in your head and saying like, "Oh, like something bad's gonna happen,"
Yeah, of
then
course.
it's really hard to perform at that point. Now you're just thinking like, "Is something wrong gonna happen?"
You
So
should read there's a great book called Chatter. I think it's by Ethan Cross, I believe his name. If not, but if you just Google Chatter, it'll pop up. And
yeah,
it's all about that voice in your head and where it comes from and uh, ways to direct it. I don't want to say control it, direct it, right?
yeah,
You know, and I feel like a big part of that is directly. I feel that directly impacts performance activities. You know, is
sure,
I mean I know that from my own experience because I happen to be I'm massively in my head. You know, and whether it's basketball tryouts in high school or whether it's open mics with a guitar these
yeah,
today or
nice.
yesterday whatever it is, like I'm always in my head about that, and like I have so much chatter. And like you said, the only time I ever really feel like I'm performing well is when I find a way to turn it off, and it's just it's a challenging thing to do. Like I understand, like you're saying, oh yeah, you can't do that because it gets in the way, but like it's not something that's simple to do. It's not like, oh
Mm-mm.
yeah, it's just your voice that's talking. You're like, oh, shut up, okay,
Mm.
fine, bye.
Yeah,
What do you?
yeah.
So is that where meditation helps?
I'd say so. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe you feel this or you will become to feel this like when you do jujitsu, right? It's more of a feeling, right? You have to feel where the gi's at, you have to feel where their weight's at. And as soon as you start thinking, you know, man, did I put the chicken in the pot today? It's like you're already getting tapped
Yeah,
out.
you're
You know what I
done.
mean?
You're
It's
done.
like it's basically playing chess and being again intuitive with what's happening. And so I feel like, you know, martial arts is such a great way to just kind of ground yourself,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
that's one of the things I
and
love about it, dude. One of the things I love about it is that my life is so chaotic, and that for that hour, nothing exists except for what I'm doing right now. Like nothing exists except for the fact that this guy has my heel right now, and I'm in big
Dude,
trouble. You know,
stay away from my heels, please.
dude,
I
it's
no room for that, brother.
there's
No,
no
no,
room,
no.
right? Because it can be devastating.
Mm-mm. I'm good on that. I
I
would tap
know.
early. I'll be
I
like, oh,
do.
you got me.
Right. The rule
I'm
is
good.
tap fast, tap quick. Tap often, tap fast, tap often. Like you don't be a hero. It's not worth it. Um,
Mm-mm.
but what I'll
Not at
do
all.
is I'll tap and then I'll get myself back. I'll have them walk me back through exactly what position I was in,
Mm.
where I went wrong, and what I could do to get out of that next time if I could.
Yeah, right.
Or I try to. But and then you go again, and you're like, okay, now I remember. Don't stick my heel out. Keep my elbows tucked a little bit. Keep my chin down so that I can't get submitted. And like you don't think about these things until they become, I guess, muscle memory. Or just second nature.
Right.
I guess is what's happening to you when you say, they call action, and then you don't even like remember what happens. Like you don't even have to think about it. That's all muscle memory, right? At that point.
Yep. Exactly right. But I will say that's gotten me in trouble sometimes too.
How so?
You know, again, uh, Army of the Dead. First film, like first movie run, and I wasn't paying attention. Like this is when I was so in tune with just doing the stunt that I wasn't in tune with the set. Right? 'Cause, the set changes so fast, and if you're not looking, you're you're
In
already
a different
behind.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they moved the camera on me, right? And so I had a specific route and I turned again, like action. And I'm like, "Blah, blah," I'm running, I'm doing these jumps and I jump and I'm like, oh shit, where's the camera? Right. Because, I know how to pose in the air and I'm like, where's the camera? And I land and my boss is right in front of me. I land right in front of me. He goes, Tony, do you want to be in the movie? And I was like,
Oh
yeah.
shit.
I was like, yeah, I do. I'm like naive. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, I do. He goes, well, camera's over there. I look behind me. I'm like, I put my head down. I shake my head,
Shit.
and he just like, Tony.
Dude,
And
so is that a big deal? Or you're just like, oh, that's stupid.
yes and no. I take it very personally, right? Because I'm out here just trying to chase perfection.
Yeah.
A lot of us are, right? And so when your boss is saying like,
What are you
is your
doing?
head in like is your head the indicator or no? You're almost like you not only are you letting him down, but it's like the whole production. Because what if I was in frame and that was like a cool shot? Like I'm jumping in the air, then someone like goes right underneath me. Like, like we're creating something. And so you're kind of missing an opportunity to create something really freaking dope. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just one piece of the puzzle that might have been missed, or maybe it wouldn't have mattered at all if I was in frame or not. But again, we're just trying to
Yeah, of
chase
course.
this thing.
Do you take acting lessons as a stuntman?
Mm,
Like, how do you know to get the camera? Like, how do you know to get the camera? Like, get what angle or what would look cool? Or because I know the actors, like, in particular, there's acting to and away from the camera. Is there stunts
right.
away and to and away from the camera?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and who trains you that? That's the coordinator on set.
Again, it's not stunt school, stunt work. So you almost have to do your diligence, before that. So like,
You
if
can't
we're
walk
throwing a
onto set for the
punch,
first time and never have looked at a camera before.
oh yeah, that'd be like showing up to school without your backpack.
Yeah.
That's like you know what I mean. It's like, especially like when you're dealing with actors, you know, you don't want to punch too close to the face, but you also want to make sure that it sells for camera. So you have to know the angle. But then actors are unpredictable sometimes. Sometimes they'll forget the choreo. So they might move their face in the line of that punch. And again, like a millisecond,
Yeah.
you have to change your body in a certain direction so it at least sells for camera.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you have to learn how to adapt on the fly. And what comes with that is studying your film, but putting your phone up, right, and punching at the screen and seeing what body
Oh,
articulation
cool.
works, and and
Right.
and
Right.
just finding
How often
different.
do you do that?
I used to do it every single day, right? But
Yeah.
now that things are,
Give your experience. Yeah.
yeah, my priorities come to a different place, right?
Yeah.
Now it's what am I capturing with the camera?
Yeah.
how do I want my performer to do X, Y, and Z? But if you're a young performer coming in, you should be looking at yourself every single day in front of a mirror or even on your phone, or just be shooting yourself doing different kinds of movements. At the end of the day, it's just learning how your body moves in front of the camera at all times, because that's what you're
So
being
you're
paid to
very, so
do.
you're, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're familiar with, as you make a motion, what the motion looks like on the outside.
Yes, sir.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I think about that. I think about that a lot. I think about how little I'm aware of how I look while I'm doing things, and like how not aware I am. Walking the street, or your hair's popping up, or you trip on something, or you're going for a jog, and what your form looks like all these kind of things. Like I always think, like, it's so hard. Like because we're so used to just receiving input that we're not used to thinking about what output we're creating.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I was telling my brother-in-law yesterday that you and I were going to talk. You came over to hang out a little bit, and
Nice.
we pulled up your IMDb, and he saw that you did the coordination for a Young Boy video, and he got all hyped about that. I don't know what
Yeah.
that meant. I don't know what that meant, but I don't know who Young Boy is. But what is it? What was it? So was this the first time coordinating a fight? I guess a fight scene or a stunt scene.
I gotta go back and remember.
Or when did you?
Uh,
How long ago was that?
beats me, brother. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Really? Does
Yeah,
it really stick out at you as like a memorable, like,
uh, for in order to make room for other things, you kind of discard it.
that's
You
so
know,
interesting. So you don't even think you remember a lot of the work that you do?
I mean, yes and no. Like, yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
I just,
By the way,
I
it makes
mean,
sense to me.
yeah,
I went to, when I met someone that listens to my podcast, listens to the podcast religiously. And, and we were talking, and so nice to meet you, so nice to meet you. And then she like makes a joke to me that I didn't recognize. Like it sounded familiar, but like I didn't know where like what she was saying, right? I was like,
okay.
huh. It's like, what's that from? She's like, that's
Yeah,
your podcast last week. You made that joke last week. And I'm like, oh shit, get out of here.
no,
I was like, it's so funny. But I was like, I never dreamt in a million years that I'd have a conversation, a 2 hour, hour and a half conversation that I just didn't that I didn't remember what I was talking about. So I guess I guess
yeah,
I hear where you're coming from, man. It's crazy.
yeah,
So what's coming up now? So you mentioned that you want to stop at 35, 36.
yeah.
So you're 31. You're taking a little bit of time off now, you said?
Yeah. I mean, right now, when there's work, I'll go to where the work's at. I've been very grateful to create a safe place where, oh, we need Tony because this, and this.
Hmm.
And I've had a lot of great friends and mentors who have put me in positions to just kind of go where I need to go in life.
So your
So
jobs are kind of so your jobs would be like hypothetically you'd get a call like I don't know in a week and you'd be like, hey, can you come to set for a month, and
exactly,
you just hop on a plane to Arizona, go there for a month, and then come back.
that's right.
So
That's right,
cool.
sir. Yeah,
So cool.
happens all the time, you know. Like I just got called to go to do something in Pittsburgh and I had to respectfully decline it. It wasn't because it was last minute, it's just because, I had other things happening, but it happened so fast,
Right.
So which is why it's very important to just kind of stay healthy and always be on your toes and stay training because you don't know what it's going to be. You know what I
Are you
mean?
afraid that missing out on jobs will affect your future,
I
or
used
you
to.
don't think like that? You used to be afraid of that.
Yeah,
And now, what
I
shifted?
used to. I think, that's a good question because, again, I just been very fortunate with my colleagues and teammates, and I feel like if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. Like I used to, I know I use this word loosely, like force opportunities. And I still do, but it's not to the degree of it's like I'm dependent on this opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like I will train and I will share my work in private. And, if it gets a bite, great. If it doesn't, then maybe I just wasn't meant for that job. But to kind of beat yourself up on, man, I missed this opportunity. Like, I'll never get a call again. It's like, listen, brother, you've been in the business for almost 13 years now. Like, it's going to be okay, you
Yeah,
know?
it's really cool. It's really cool that you made
Everybody,
it far.
yeah, everybody needs to eat, you know. So
Yeah,
it's at the end of the day, it's going to happen regardless. If it's your time, great. If it's not, make someone else's, you know, career
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
That's okay.
definitely. That's really
So,
man. You got a lot of wisdom in your perspective, man. Seriously, it's really cool. It's really cool. It feels like it's beyond your years. Yeah, it's a shame to say because you'd hope that 30-year-olds would be or 31-year-olds would be wise, in general. But it feels like I think we live in a world of delayed adolescence a lot of times, and I think that's because of delayed responsibility and more convenience. And again, I think discipline and responsibility kind of go hand in hand. But
well said.
it's really refreshing to kind of see or hear and talk to you about and like kind of hear these very grounded perspectives because I think that they don't come organic. The way that you're speaking isn't just human nature, right? Human nature is kind of selfish, kind of reflexive, kind of I need to preserve myself and take as much of the cake as as I could possibly get,
Sure.
and kind of for it to and by expending the least amount of effort and energy. And it's really really cool that you've been kind of saying the total opposite, and I it really means a lot. I really appreciate that, dude. What so you have so do you so I could imagine actually that lower budget kind of more have fun with it sets are probably more enjoyable for yourself, right, than something big and huge and expensive and tight and
Yeah. I mean, again, it comes with its different poisons, right? Like, you know, how do I say when you're with a smaller budget film, right? You're kind of the guy, right?
Mhm.
So, I did a lower budget SAG film called I actually forgot what it was called. It's called The Professor, right?
Oh,
The the
what was that about?
um it's about this guy who is somewhat delusional of his life, right? So he's kind of walking through life, pity partying himself, um, and kind of going through life in a way that's just weird, awkward, and
Hmm.
unfulfilling, right? And through the course of this short film, he actually does something for himself for once and sticks up for himself. And the way that it was, directed, the color changed. It's like you go from this gloomy color in the beginning to this bright, vibrant yellow color, right?
Cool.
And so, it's like a change of events in himself. And I got the opportunity to action direct that. And, the guy's like, hey, like do whatever you want. Like, here's a
Yeah.
script, do whatever you want. And so I took the opportunity, I just kind of went off. And it was during a stage in my life where it's like, as I'm learning, I'm going like, I like when I do this. I like when I move the camera a certain way. Or I like how, I'm playing with this little piece of emotion, right? And so those smaller budget films allows me the opportunity to re-innovate and kind of go off script, right?
Hmm.
As much with the bigger stuff, like I got to go to Canada to help coordinate the boys under John Koyama uh,
Cool. Really?
and Matt Rigetti. Yeah, and
In
that
Vancouver?
was Toronto. Yes,
Toronto. Cool.
yeah,
It's a
and
little
that was
less
a
cool than
whole
Vancouver,
whole.
by the way.
Say what?
I think Vancouver's a little bit of a cooler city than Toronto is.
So I heard. So I heard. I still have yet to go to the Cougs to Vancouver. I have a lot of great stunt guys out there who are
Oh
friends, and
yeah, you should go, dude. It's a lot of fun. Even if
I
you go to
have to.
Seattle and take a little trip up there, dude, it's a lot of fun. It's really cool.
Well, if I put the law of attraction into effect, it will happen fairly soon.
I hope
I
so,
just
man. Let me
just
know. You
gotta,
got to keep me in the loop.
ah, yeah. I mean, of course I will. But yeah, yeah. So depends on big budget, small budget. I want to tackle whatever beast is given to me. So that at the
Yeah,
end of the day, I'm going to learn something that I haven't learned before, and I think that's the nature of the beast. You know.
I'm with you. One thing I've noticed, I think, um, a big theme that's happened in my life is that I have not really fit into like big lots of parts systems, like you could call it bureaucracies or corporate or whatever, like I don't fit into like big systems, I operate much better in like smaller, more intimate, wear a lot of hats, make whatever you make it happen yourself kind of environments. And I
Right.
used to think that was like a massive flaw about myself, and I used to beat myself up about it because like I could never get like a corporate job working for a bank or working for a accounting firm or a law firm or something like that.
Wow.
Or even in terms of like the podcast world, right? Like, I'm watching like, these podcasts and I'm like, they have like, these huge teams and the way that they're overproduced and, they put all these keywords into their captions and their names in the episodes
Yeah.
and they turn them into like corporatized podcasts, or these like enormous productions. And I just love the grassroots. I just love the authenticity that comes from just like reaching out to someone. Hey, let's get on. Let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. You have a
Yeah.
real conversation with talented people with great experience and it grows by itself because you have that space to make it grow as opposed to trying to fit yourself into someone else's system.
Right.
And so when you describe it like that, I think of my a lot of those scenarios in my life in the same exact way. The school I teach at barely gave me a curriculum. They're like, you're an English
Oh,
teacher, good luck, have fun. And like, and the teacher will check in, and be like, the principal will check in and be like, what are you guys working on? I'll tell him what I'm working on. And sometimes it's better than others. Sometimes he's happier than other times. But if I taught in a school where they'd like, you have to read The Great Gatsby, from this to this week and that week to that week, and then you have a book assignment that week to that week. I'm like, I don't want to teach this. This is crap. It's not
yeah.
crap, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I take it
Right.
back. I don't mean to say like negative like that, but it doesn't work for me. So I can kind of I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of having those lower but like having a little bit more of that creative freedom, even though it might be lower budget or not as glamorous, I
Right.
guess, or glitzy. Right.
Right.
Really cool, man. I hope you start directing. I hope you keep acting. I hope you keep on doing all this great stuff, man, because hearing about all this is really, really exciting and it's really, really cool. And I think that I learned a ton. I'm sure the audience is gonna learn a ton from this episode. It's really cool. And bring a whole new appreciation to the whole art of film.
Wow. That's
Dude,
gratitude. Thank you so much.
of course, man.
Appreciate
Dude,
it.
thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate the time. And I look forward to being in touch, man. I want to hear how things are going on, and I want to see what you're working on, and I want to hear, just see what's going on because I think this is really, really cool, and I'm sure you're going to accomplish incredible, incredible things. Not that you haven't already, but you have a whole lifetime ahead of you. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on and keep it up, man.
Dang, brother, you make me blush. Stop.
Oh, sorry about that, dude. I don't mean to do that.
Well,
All
again,
right, man.
thank you so
Dude,
much.
thank you so
Take care,
much.
sir.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye.